Meet Magic Eden, the home of Web3. They are getting into the token trading space in addition to NFTs to become a super dApp where you can do everything cross-chain all in one place. They're solving UX issues by building products across every chain ecosystem, swaps, borrowing and lending, NFT, perps, and more, all seamlessly cross-chain. Instead of hopping between countless sites and handling multiple wallets, just use Magic Eden. Plus, the ME token is coming out this quarter from the ME Foundation. If you've used any of their protocols, you can claim some. So check out Magic Eden today and watch them become a super dApp in the home of Web3 in real time. Go to realvision.com/magic for more information.
Hi, everyone. Sorry to interrupt, but this is the cheesy podcast bit that gets on everyone's nerves, but it's really important to me. Please, if you can like the channel and also subscribe, it helps me a lot to get the best guests in the world for you guys. So click like and subscribe. Appreciate it. Thanks. Hi, I'm Raoul, and welcome to my show, The Journeyman, where I take that journey to the nexus of exploration of macro, crypto, and the exponential age of technology. I look at many of the big themes, and my job is to figure out how they all come together in the end. One of these is NFTs. NFTs are kind of misunderstood. People think of the last cycle and the insanity of the NFTs and the profile picture craze that happened. Now, a lot of that crashed and burned. And we're seeing a similar kind of craze in meme coins now. But NFTs are something much, much bigger. You see, NFTs are really contracts, individual contracts that exist online. And they can be used for many things. You see, in a digital world, everything goes to zero in value because you can create infinite amounts of stuff. But once you use something like an NFT, a non-fungible token, what you can do is create digital scarcity for a particular object. Now, the breakout use case has been high-end art, and I've been a big buyer of that in the down cycle in things like Xcopy, who I think is the culturally most relevant artist in the entire history of the space, along with Beeple. And I've collected many more artists too. You can see my collection on OpenSea under the Culture Vault. You can see what I've collected. And those are long-term savings for me, things that I won't sell, I want to hold on to because they're going to remind us of the culture. They're a time capsule of this cultural moment in time when we all started to realize that we could make our fortunes and unfuck our futures in crypto. It's a special moment in time. So that's what I've got, is these time capsules of the culture of the time. But NFTs are a lot more than just art too. So it was really important for me to reach out to somebody to talk about the bigger picture. And I've always been a fan of the guys at Magic Eden. I'm a big fan of Super Rare, Magic Eden, even OpenSea, because I want to know where this space is going and how they're seeing the space. So with Magic Eden, just as a side, is they're actually sponsors of some Real Vision content. But just to be clear, nobody I have on The Journeyman ever pays to appear. These are people I want to speak to for my reasons, and you can't pay to appear on The Journeyman. The show can be sponsored, sure. So let's not conflate the two here, but I really want to hear from Jack what is going on at Magic Eden and where this is all going. I hope you enjoy it. Join me, Raoul, as I go on a journey of discovery through the macro, crypto, and exponential age landscapes. In The Journeyman, I talk to the smartest people in the world so we can all become smarter together. Jack, welcome to Real Vision.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I have to say, I'm a Real Vision listener, actually, long-time listener. Exponential age, don't fuck this up, so I'm actually really excited to be here. It's actually kind of surreal for me.
I've got Banana Zone t-shirt on today.
Let's go. That's awesome. I actually listen to a lot of your macro stuff. I mean, macro and crypto are so intertwined together. So whenever you guys drop stuff about what's up with inflation, what's up with rates, I'm listening to it on the gym, man, on the day. So
I love it. Yeah, I mean, that's the point is, look, they're all the same thing. People didn't realize crypto's actually a macro thing. I even found, I ran a lot of analysis on even NFTs and found that particularly the art ones are actually a macro asset. They just need the business cycle and alt season and various other things to come together, and then it all happens. So yeah, everything is macro, and macro is kind of everything, I guess. So listen, let's get your story first. So Jack, tell us your crypto journey, because that's always, I love hearing how people got into this ridiculous industry. Why you would suffer such pain to do it?
That's a good question. I think that hits at the nail. That hits at the nail, man. Like a lot of I'm a lover of pain and a lot of pain tolerance. But yeah, happy to tell. So it's somewhat intertwined with the Magic Eden story. But one of my co-founders, Sid, he's our CTO. We've been like high school friends actually. So I've known him for like 15, 16 years. Grew up in Australia together, went to high school together, went to like math tutoring on the weekend together. He got me into crypto. 2014, we graduated from college. He started a Bitcoin company. So that was like one of the early Bitcoin bull cycles. And he started like an indexing company, like a really early, he would describe it as like an early version of Alchemy. And he raised some money, moved from Australia to the US, set up shop. And he said, "Hey Jack, you should come visit me, man. Like, and maybe we should do some stuff together." And he tried to convince me to join. And at that time, that's actually when I got fascinated with Bitcoin and crypto, because he was, shilling it to me all the time. But I took a look at what he was doing. I said, "Dude, I just graduated. I don't know much about business. I don't know much about tech. I'm not very good at coding, but I definitely know your thing's not going to work. So like, all respect, I'm going to have to bow out." Which was, at that time I actually had some dissonance. I felt like, felt a little shameful, like not joining my friend in his startup. But it was a good choice because his thing went down in flames.
Meet Magic Eden, the home of Web3. They are getting into the token trading space in addition to NFTs to become a super dApp where you can do everything cross-chain all in one place. They're solving UX issues by building products across every chain ecosystem, swaps, borrowing and lending, NFT, perps, and more, all seamlessly cross-chain. Instead of hopping between countless sites and handling multiple wallets, just use Magic Eden. Plus, the ME token is coming out this quarter from the ME Foundation. If you've used any of their protocols, you can claim some. So check out Magic Eden today and watch them become a super dApp in the home of Web3 in real time. Go to realvision.com/magic for more information.
But I think from that time, that's when I started like really paying attention to Bitcoin and crypto and just going down the rabbit hole, if you will. Fast forward a few years, actually what happened was this. I got into a professional career, and I was just dabbling in tokens. I was buying tokens, I was buying Bitcoin. 2017, I was buying ICOs. And for many like big shifts in the crypto industry of the last 10 years, it all made me want to jump in and do something full time. But something held me back. And the thing that held me back was I felt like in those early days of crypto, it felt like a lot of things in crypto was about infrastructure, like making the tech faster, consensus algorithms, or it was about trading, right? Building an exchange, DeFi, building a trading shop. And I didn't come from any of those backgrounds. I didn't have like a CS, PhD, and I didn't work at Wall Street. I was more like a consumer product manager. That was my trade. So long story short, I just mainly dabbled in tokens. Then what happened was in 2021, I saw like the Ethereum NFT boom happen. And this is like front page New York Times, people were talking about art, like people were selling these art for $69 million. And that's when it gave me this feeling like, actually, this new thing, NFTs, this is about like art, culture, games, partying, people talking crap to each other on the internet. This is things I understand. This is like consumer stuff. This is the thing that every man, that every woman on the street can understand without being really about consensus algorithms, how high the TPS is. That then made me feel like, hey, actually, maybe this is an area I can contribute because I came from this consumer internet background. And that's when I basically called Sid again. He also dropped out of crypto and said, hey, I'm actually seeing a lot of really interesting things in the NFT space. Maybe we should actually start a company together, do some side projects. We kind of started Magic Eden, built the first version out in 2 weeks, and then we were lucky enough to catch like obviously the NFT bull cycle in 21, and then started Magic Eden, got a lot of traction, raised like $130 million in like 9 months, and then now like we're 3 years on in that journey. Yeah.
And you started on Solana, right?
That's right. Yeah, started on Sol.
Why that decision? And, talk us about the first iteration of what Magic Eden is. We'll talk about where it's going, along with where the market and everything else is going. But talk us through that first bit. Why did you make those decisions? And what was in your head at the time? Because startups is always a journey of, you think you're going here, you end up going there. But where did you think you were going?
So started on Sol and definitely resonate with you. Like, um, we took a bet, we worked hard, but there was also a healthy dose of luck involved. It's like can't pretend otherwise. We started on Sol because in 21, that was a bit like the contrarian bet because people thought Sol was this like centralized chain. People didn't really believe in this like old chain thesis that much. But for me, because I came from consumer internet, I was like a big tech PM in the Bay Area. I thought, hey, like the history of the internet has been, over long enough time horizon, it trends towards the best technology, the fastest technology. And Sol actually built this new chain that was really fast, really crisp, and we can build some really nice user experiences on top of it. And then secondly, like ETH at that time was more the cultural center for NFTs, and that was where the pioneers were. But really, Sol was where the white space was. So we wanted to take this contrarian bet. Over time, we expanded to like 10 chains, got traction on ETH as well, and as well as on Bitcoin. But that was the bet. And then at the same time, of course, a healthy dose of luck, right? So what happened was when I called Sid and I said, hey, we should maybe do something in NFTs. We didn't think we were going to start a company. We said, why don't we just do this as a side project, see what happens? And it was actually around this time. It was like Labor Day weekend, like, September, October 21. And we said, you know what, we're just going to take 2 weeks off work, all of us, and let's just crank something out. And we bought like a WordPress theme because we didn't want to code the front end. We just wanted to figure out the back end and all this smart contract stuff. And we like sticky taped it together, tossed it out into the market. But yeah, I said, you know what? In 2 weeks, if we get $50,000 of transactions, that will be a success. And then we started doing like $200,000 per day within 2 weeks. And that's when, we looked at each other and said, hey, this is like sometimes the universe hits you with this opportunity and you'd be stupid, right? We'd regret it for the rest of our lives if we didn't jump in. So then we just like quit our jobs and just did it full time. Yeah.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying the episode. If you want to dive deeper and really dig into what's going on and how to understand it, then grab my Everything Code PDF for free. Just hit the link in the description below. You're going to love it. I'm sure it's going to really help you. Was your vision to create an OpenSea on Solana? Was that the original idea? Here's a new chain. They're going to have NFTs. There's going to be activity. There's no way for it right now for people to buy and sell the stuff. We'll just solve that. Was that?
It was, at the early days, that's probably as far as we thought about it. And OpenSea even tried to like acquire us, like in the really, really early days. And that was basically it. I think we had a few differences in maybe the way that we thought about NFTs that was different to OpenSea and some of the other players, but that's probably more like the simple V1 of the vision. I think what we wanted, the two things that was pretty different about us was, number one, we said there is some aspect of NFT that looks like the trading markets, like equities markets or fungible token markets, in the sense it has like a secondary market and a primary market. And what we observed was in those markets, it's like IPO, right? Like if you also own a lot of the primary market, there is this overflow of demand that flows into the secondary market and it creates some network effects. So we built our product with like a primary market and a secondary market very early. And that was pretty different to like other players like OpenSea. And then the second thing that we always wanted to do was we actually followed more like this Amazon Netflix analogy, which is we want to have maximum range. And crypto goes up and down. We don't really know what would take off, but as long as we have maximum range, then the range will help us acquire users, and that convenience will help us appeal to users over time. And I think most players are generally like single ecosystem players. They either play on ETH or EVM ecosystem or like Sol ecosystem or Move ecosystem or something like that. So from the very early on, we said we should be very horizontal.
At the peak of the insanity, you raise a lot of money, which is great. And now it's like, oh shit, what have we got to build? So then your vision has to change because you've now got money, you've got backing of investors, and you've got an ability to go and do something. What do you guys say to each other, and what do you decide to build?
Yeah, that's a good question. And like, yeah, in the middle, also like FTX collapse happened, Sol went from like $250 to $8. Our revenue dropped like 99%.
And you're thinking, oh my God, Frank de God's changed his chain right at the bottom.
Yeah. I was like, Frank, man, come on, bro, just pick one. Like, I'm like building technology just for you. No, it's a really good question. There was a period of fog of war, like, no lie. Like during that peak, like very bearish times, we we're also thinking, like it's very hard to see what's working. Then we did make a couple of things work, and there were a few like, I guess like big thesis or directions. One is really bet hard on going multi-chain, and that was in this bear market where everyone was being fairly conservative and they were not doing aggressive expansion. And we said, let's aggressively expand. And what we did probably like 18 months ago, one of our best examples of that was expand to Bitcoin. So now we have like 90% of the Bitcoin collectibles market.
Yeah, you pioneered that. You saw it really early. People didn't quite understand it, and you guys jumped on it.
Yeah, that's right. And then off the back of that, there was another thesis, which is category expansion. So expanding beyond just NFTs into other use cases so we become more diversified and more resilient. And it also started with Bitcoin because we started with Bitcoin like collectibles, which is called ordinals. And then we expanded to effectively like fungible token trading on Bitcoin, which is called runes. And now we also are the dominant player in that market. So we have like the biggest Bitcoin DEX. But the whole thesis was, you know what? What we should do is do horizontal chain expansion so we have the biggest range. So it doesn't matter what creators pop off, we can always get some exposure. And then we should do category expansion because these use cases in crypto are so volatile that it's much better to be resilient. And then the last thing we did was, this is one of the things that in some ways I wish we did earlier, but better late than never, is we went upwards, like we went vertically. So we built our own wallet. And we released our mobile app a couple of months ago. We got like 300,000 downloads. And the reason for that was, as you said, we raised a ton of money. Like, what do we do with it? We wanted to grow. Obviously, our investors wanted to grow. The people behind us also want us to grow. But one of the biggest problems I realized was, as an app, we were like sitting behind the wallets, and then we also sat behind the centralized exchanges, which meant it was very hard for us to grow. So to give an example, if we spent $100 million on a Super Bowl ad, then the users will go to Coinbase, and then the users will go to like MetaMask, and then like a very small trickle will come to Magic Eden. And we cannot grow. We were just praying for rain, right? Praying that a bull market will come and users will come. So the only way for us to put that resource investment into something that actually helps us solve that mission is build our own wallet, which then has our own fiat on-ramp, so we can bypass other wallets, bypass the centralized exchanges, so that we have our own way of growing with our own product vision. And so, yeah, that's the things that we did in the last couple of years.
I want to go into the bigger vision in a sec, but I just want to go back to one thing. Is you'd come into NFTs, but then NFT volumes went to essentially zero, which must have been a scary moment for you guys because you've raised all the money. You've kind of raised it for generally NFTs as a thesis, and then you look around you and there's like, there is nothing happening. Is that what you saw that forced you to adapt and look for new opportunities?
The Corva is actually a bit like this. So I think number one, in definitely like looking now, NFTs is way softer as a category than 22, right? When we raised the money. But even in 24, I think even though the category is soft, Magic Eden, I think we're still doing pretty well. Like we're over 70% of the revenue within the NFT market, and even off that, we're like profitable as a 130-person company. So to me, it's almost like, man, this category is pretty soft. It can only go up from here, and even at the softness, our strategy works, and we're doing really well. That's like one take. The second take for us is, the way I see the NFT thing is probably how I perceive the crypto industry as I was waiting on the sidelines over the last since 2014, is this. I think it always starts out looking like a toy, and I always think that there will be a long-term trend towards utility. So what I mean by that is this. Initially, when DeFi started in 2017 or 2018, I also thought there was no way this is going to work. This looks super illegal. This looks super speculative. And my co-founder was employee number 2 at DYDX. It's like a decentralized futures exchange. And he first showed it to me 2018. I said, dude, you have like 100 users. This is not going to work. And lo and behold, they're doing like hundreds of millions of dollars of trades per day. DeFi is a real thing. And the second thing is that likewise, like for tokens, 2017, everything started as very speculative, like vaporware, ICOs. But eventually the best tokens with utility and teams building behind them rose to the top. And like Solana, will be a really good example of that. That is our view for NFTs and my view for NFTs, which is 2021, 22, there was this like hyper speculative phase. And it was a bit like tulip mania, if you will. And a lot of teams got washed out because they were very empty. But now we are seeing the spark of games actually using this technology. There was this game called Off the Grid that had like 5 million users launched a few weeks ago. This is, to me, is like the burgeoning of chapter 2 of NFTs and what is probably following the same trends of other crypto paradigms before, which is that fundamentally this technology is sound, but now we have the creators and the teams who actually have the vision to bring something to life. So all that, I think to summarize, 24 things are pretty quiet. I think we're still doing well relative to the quietness. And then over the long term, we're still really bullish. And I think we'll follow the same trends as other trends in crypto.
I always find that, when you're trying to solve problems like a quiet market, you come into other things. Firstly, your expansion to the Bitcoin ecosystem very early meant that you could take a dominant share. Okay, so that was a fantastic move. The other thing is putting on other things onto the platform, the ability to transact, the wallet. It just builds something closer to a super app in the space, which I think is a really good vision. I want to dig into a bit more on that in a sec. It feels that the multi-chain thing is actually a very hard thing to solve, but it's actually the biggest need of all. Right now, if I want to go and buy an NFT on Tezos, Bitcoin, ETH, SWI, whatever, it's a total fucking pain in the ass. I got all of these wallets. I have different places. I mean, I bought some Rupa Renisto smiles on Magic Eden that are stuck in my Phantom wallet because they don't go into my Ledger device very easily. And it's like, really? And then I've got stuck with stuff on Base. I've stuck with stuff on the new other layer 2 that just came out for NFT artists. I've got some on ETH. It's like, guys, make this easy for me somehow.
Yeah, well said, man. Kindred spirits.
But how difficult is that? Because it's easy to say, I can waft my hands around and go, everything should be interoperable in a multi-chain world. But you've got to build the tech to do it. How difficult is that to do?
It is really hard. I think technically it's quite challenging. It's very expensive. And then I think operationally, even from go-to-market inside the company, how you organize is also pretty challenging. So I think, two things. One, what you mentioned about the problem, we definitely resonate with. And I think that's like the core heartstring problem that we want to solve. And the second is that we always have the saying in Magic Eden, which is like, what is hard is what is valuable. So let's just go do the hard thing. And to tying all those things together, like building across, why is it challenging in the first place? It's like if you want to build on multiple chains, it's effectively like building on multiple technical stacks. It's like building on a Windows stack, Apple stack, Linux stack, and then like some really weird Cobalt stack that would probably be Bitcoin, and then trying to have a very seamless front-end user experience across all of them. And I think that's fine if we're like a 10,000 person company like Microsoft, but we're not, right? We're like a 130 person startup. So it is technically very challenging. And because in crypto, the underlying stack, like the chains, they are also changing. They have teams that's updating all the time. You also have a lot of chasing and keeping up to do. So I think that is technically very challenging. Then operationally, it's challenging because as folks in crypto know, like there's all this chain maximalism. It's a little bit like we're like this American or like we're like this international company, and then we go into a local country and we don't understand the culture, and we're like doing some really weird thing, like we're like using email in China when everyone uses WeChat, right? Or we're like trying to use a credit card in LATAM where everyone uses cash. It's basically like that. So and initially when we tried to do the multi-chain thing, we didn't understand this and we screwed it up multiple times. But over time, as we landed each chain and each ecosystem, we developed our own playbook for how to enter the chain and actually have success. And the way we actually think about it now is we hire like very dedicated talent from the chain and ecosystem who understand the tech. And then we also, it's like respecting the local culture. We also hire operations and community teams to understand what this local culture really is and what this local chain ecosystem is about to then actually run the operations and go to market. So to us, it was pretty difficult technically, operationally, and then I think it was kind of expensive to run all of these different teams. But at the same time, to your point, like what would we do in the bear market? I actually think that was a really valuable thing we did because ultimately, I think we're one of the only crypto companies to be able to solve this problem, and it actually made us very resilient. It's exactly the reason why we have 70% share in NFTs, while we're profitable, and despite everything going down, and we're still able to like stay focused, stay long term without a lot of competitors attacking us and distracting us in different directions.
Is the true north for you the non-fungible, and the fungible side is like the infrastructure layer to move money on and around? Or is that becoming a bigger deal and you find out that execution, transaction, and maybe staking and other stuff that can all come from the space, the DeFi thing? Do you just think of it as the kind of support layer for the NFTs, or just all part of a kind of larger super app idea?
Our vision is, we call it like trade all assets on all chains in one app. And what I think the vision, this next chapter of Magic Eden, what it's going to look like is like an on-chain version of Coinbase, on-chain version of Binance that can trade multiple categories of assets with an extremely wide amount of range on all chains. So then to your point, like we have NFTs as one category of tradable assets. We have tokens, fungible tokens as one category of tradable assets. And it basically allows us to serve users in those use cases. And there's a like high degree of synergy between the two. Like gaming companies want to launch tokens, they want to launch NFTs. That's like VC-backed institutional teams. And then like meme coins, grassroots teams, they also want to launch NFTs, and they also obviously want to launch tokens. So there's a high degree of synergy. I think for us today, the fungible token trading side is probably like 25% of our revenue already. And that's coming from Ruins, and that's coming from a mobile app. And I think in 2025, that number is only going to grow as well.
How do you get liquidity onto the platform? Because we've seen different models of liquidity, and some have been an utter disaster and kind of sort of ruined the market, and others are illiquid, so it's the opposite pain. Particularly in the NFT side, which is because they're specific non-fungible goods or assets, they're more difficult to provide liquidity for. How do you think about liquidity in this? Do you think the liquidity should be provided by the market, or should it be provided by liquidity makers?
I think our view on this has changed over time, and I can tell you a little bit about our current view, and then like and back into like some previous views. So I think in this new, like in the product, that the vision that we're shooting towards, this like on-chain version of Coinbase, on-chain version of Binance, multi-category trading app, it's not necessary for us to own the liquidity. And what is much more important for us is to acquire the user. So it's like count of users is more important than like the volume of liquidity. And I actually think that's a really valuable problem to solve, because I think in crypto, there is this over gravitation towards volume and liquidity because the space does not grow, right? It's bull market, bear market. In the bear market, there are no new users. The only thing that we can see is we have a flat user pool. We can only measure like how much volume is going through to each user. However, what we want to build is, once we have NFTs, fungible tokens, our own wallet, vertically integrated, we can acquire users from the Web2 non-crypto space. And what is much more important for me is then just build a really simple experience and onboard those users. And as long as we have the right value propositions to onboard those users, it's okay if we churn some users to other apps or like competitors. That is less important to us. What's much more important to us is have this funnel where we can grow our users. So then why do I say volume is less important than users? Is this. I think one of the very special and unique properties of us being this Web3 decentralized app, relative to centralized apps, is we can compose on other people's apps. That's the beauty of Web3. So what I can do is we can build a nice trading UI layer on top of Uniswap, on top of Radium, on top of these like decentralized exchanges, and we can tap into their liquidity. But the user comes to our interface, they use our wallet to do the trade. And that's how we can probably, with 130 people, build these use cases that would take like 500, 1,000 people to build, because we don't have to build every part of the stack. We just have to pick the stack that we think is most valuable to our mission and then go from there. So what we are really focused on, back to, I guess it's all founders have their own like founder DNA, and that's why they pick the strategy that suits them. We are like consumer internet application builders. We like building large scale apps that feel really simple and delightful to use. What I think is much more important is that we build the delightful UX for this trading platform. We build our own wallet so that we can have sticky relationships with our users, but we don't have to own the liquidity. And instead, what we should then focus on is growth and onboarding new users into the space. And yeah, there are certain chains, like on Bitcoin, where it's so hard to build that I have to build the liquidity. I have to build the DEX. I have to find the market makers. It's just part of the necessity. But there are other ecosystems like Solana, ETH, where all that part of the stack or the market structure is very developed. It's fine. Like we can just sit on someone else's liquidity and sit on someone else's stack, but we just have to find the user. Let me know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense to me. I want to step a little bit into the future now as well, because this is where it gets really interesting to me. I kind of believe in Punk 6529's view of NFTs, which is they are much bigger than people understand. My general thesis is here that all of human society is run by contracts. Even you turning up today was not a signed contract that was witnessed, but essentially a contract between you and I that we were going to get together and talk. And everything we do is a contract. I mean, literally everything in human society is organized by contracts. And in a digital world, those contracts are NFTs. And because they're cheap and easy to do, we can get these trusted, verified, distributed contracts at scale. So when I think of what you're building, I just think it's a lot bigger than people yet understand, because the technology is the same. You're just changing what the bloody NFT has. So here's where I'm at. One is obviously there's a huge marketplace in Steam, the gaming assets, right? So you talked about that. There's a gaming asset marketplace. Okay, that makes sense. We can see where that's headed. I just think ticketing is going this way. All sports tickets, all concert tickets, all of that. There needs to be a marketplace, a secondary marketplace, liquidity for tickets, and tickets after the event, because they are now assets. Because I've got my Live Aid ticket here from when I went to Live Aid back in whenever it was, 85. I've kept that because it's valuable to me and to other people. And so and then if you can do that, well, you can do derivative contracts in finance because they are NFTs. And it's the same technology stack that you've built as a consumer app that can actually do a lot more than people yet understand. Is that directionally right in your mind?
Oh, yeah. The kindred spirits, for sure. That's why I had my own take around like NFTs are soft today, but long term, I think they're going to be huge. We have exactly the same thesis, like Magic Eden, where we're like expanding into token trading, but that doesn't mean that we're divesting away from NFTs. In fact, what we want to do is keep investing, remain number one. It's just that we have these new product lines to make our business in general more resilient. But to your point of like, do we believe in that future? For sure. Like there are way more non-fungible things sitting around us than there are fungible things. and we can already see the trend towards tokenization, like assets and concepts moving on chain and leveraging the the provenance and benefits of blockchain technology. I think that's an inevitable trend. And one of the things that we talk about is like think long term and bet on the right side of history. We're hoping, we want to be in this industry for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years and be one of those companies can really like push this industry forward. Then I think all of those things that you say would actually take place. The way that we think about it is, I think the core, like there is this use case in NFTs that was really prevalent in 22, like profile photos. It was fairly speculative, but there is this identity flexing element to it. I think that market has gone a lot softer, so that speculative fervor has deteriorated, but it's still there and it's still like a profitable market to be in. But we think that, hey, like we have a stake, we know how that game works, let's do that. There is this use case around gaming assets, as you say, with effectively like games who want to have like crypto native experiences and assets. There's a use case around that. Then ticketing, music, all of those are also other categories that we're interested in. The way that we see it is, I think for us, the mobile app and this mobile wallet will be the core foundation for us to tap into those use cases. What my goal is for 2025, we get to millions of downloads on our mobile app. Today it's like 300,000 in 3 months. I want to get that to like 5 million, 10 million. And we have like some strategies to do that.
How do you do that? Because you're going to need something killer that changes the zeitgeist, right? It's not general market flows going to do it because you'll end up with a lot of competitors. You need to have the killer thing.
This is pretty public, but we're announcing we're adopting the ME token. So I think it will be like this drastic cannon to supercharge our growth. The second is that I think there is some really interesting use cases within the Bitcoin ecosystem that would appeal to more like crypto curious audiences to do that. So I'll give an example, like in Bitcoin, there is now this talk of adding like effective like smart contract properties called OP-CAT. And if we can do that, then you can imagine people taking out loans on Bitcoin, people trading more than just collectible assets. Staking of Bitcoin can be available. So like you stake Bitcoin to earn yield. And if I think about those use cases have huge markets, right? Because Bitcoin is really the crypto asset that has really gone mainstream. It's got this ETF. It's now recognized all over the world. It's like, BlackRock is talking about.
Yeah, it's the collateral for the whole system, but it had no other uses. And now everyone's building the new uses for this.
Exactly. And I actually think yield on Bitcoin is also a very underappreciated use case because yield exists in every other crypto asset. Ethereum has yield, Solana has yield, like a bunch of these L2s, their assets have yield. And yield is a much easier to understand use case than trading. Trading is generally it's more for advanced people who are like more locked in. But a lot of people are very casual. I want to hold Bitcoin like my dad. My dad wants to hold Bitcoin. If you tell him you can earn 5% a year in it, he would definitely do it, right? But these use cases, I think, are pretty close to being unlocked by some new technologies that's being discussed in the Bitcoin ecosystem. And given the brand power of Bitcoin, they have really big markets. And given our positioning as the biggest dApp on Bitcoin, I think we're like in a unique position to tap into that as well. So like adopting the ME token as a supercharged incentive, some really interesting things happening on the Bitcoin ecosystem. And then the last thing I would say is this is what I learned from the last bull market. When the market starts getting really hot, then we can start doing much more mainstream partnerships. We used to do ones with Bugatti, like Shaquille O'Neal, Coachella, Tomorrowland. But back then, we did not have the building blocks to really get all of the ROI from doing those big partnerships or marketing opportunities. But now we have the wallet, we have our own use cases. The app looks way better. We can actually acquire those users and actually grow. Yeah.
So when you look out 5 years into the future, assuming you'll be wrong on 50% of it, because that's what it's like when you're trying to predict, but what does crypto look like? What does the world to you look like outside of Magic Eden? I'm just asking for your big picture. Where's the next 5 years going here?
no financial advice. Give me the indulgence of being 50% wrong or more. So I think crypto as a total category is going to be like bigger than gold, right? Because today we're like already 1.5 trillion, right? And gold is like, I don't know, 10, something like that. It's not that far off, like similar.
I think crypto's 2.5 trillion, Bitcoin's whatever, 1.5 trillion. So yeah, I mean we've got, and gold's, I don't know, it's probably because it's had a rally, maybe it's 15 trillion now, something like 18 trillion. So we've got a long way to go.
So maybe not 5 years, but like 5 to 10 years, that kind of scale. And then once you're in that size, then if you think about decentralized finance as a category, it's going to be massive. Like I'm not going to put a number on it, but like that would no longer be seen as this niche thing for technologists or early adopters. I think that category is going to be, it's going to be huge. It's going to be like a really dominant player. And then if you think about, then there's very dominant use cases in there, which is like stable coins for remittances, borrowed land, all of that. I think all of those will be very, very refined. I will also say that I think that within then, and then of course, then you have like culture, like so non-financial use cases, so like culture, gaming. Once you have that much, the market size is that big and there's that much commercial opportunities in it. I think those categories, which today look a little bit like toys and look a little fairly small, there's going to be enough commercial opportunity for very large companies and very large products to be built in there. Gaming marketplaces, fully crypto native games with millions of users, art and culture becoming much more vibrant than it is for now. The thing I actually wanted to say is, if we actually imagine like that kind of world, then I actually think that there is a new class of internet companies that will also be massive. I think that in today's world, in crypto, like the centralized exchanges, that is the best business model, and they are effectively the kings, right? Because they control the flow of capital from traditional capital markets into traditional pools of capital into crypto, and they capture that flow. It's like being searched for the internet, right? But I actually think once you have that much of a massive on-chain market, it is going to be the native on-chain companies like us, Magic Eden, spoiler, that is actually going to be the true players who understand how to play in this and how to follow the trend.
Yeah, because if you think about it, the broadband companies captured the first part of the internet because that was the entry, right? Same as the exchanges. They were the toll booths. They would take the tolls as people came in. But then once the people came in, the infrastructure was there, and then they built on top of it. Out of that comes Facebook.
Exactly. They're the native companies. Yes.
That's right. And that they capture the actual value because they're actually closer to the dollar. Yes, the exchanges capture a lot because they are close to the dollar because the dollar goes through them. But the dollar gets spent in this new economy. So I always think of crypto as an economy. It's a new frontier economy. The exchanges are your capital flows. You put it in, and now it's in the economy. So you're in Solana and ETH or whatever Bitcoin, whatever you're in, you're now within these economies, and then you spend money in the economies. Like I've spent my ETH and I buy X copy and Beeple, right? That's me spending my ETH. Other people may spend it in DeFi and get yield or do whatever. That velocity of money within is where the big money, because as you said, the more money that goes into it, it stays in and it moves around a lot.
Exactly. I think that's a great analogy. Yes, the toll booths, when the ecosystem is first starting and there's not as many interesting things, the toll booths capture a lot of value in relative terms. But once the native economy becomes really booming and it's like more fun and it's changing so fast and it's so vibrant that we don't even understand why it's happening, then it's the native companies that is born from that space that will capture a lot of value. I think so. And I also, for what it's worth, I think that the history of crypto has always been that it's like the infrastructure companies that capture a lot of value. If you look at top 10 coins, most of them are chains, right? But the history of the internet, to use your mental model, the history of the internet is the apps that touch the users and build those sticky user relationships. They actually capture more of the value over the long term. And our bet is on that as well. That's why we want to play in the right layers of the stack that really touch the user rather than going down to build liquidity pools or this kind of stuff. I think we want to get closer and closer to the user.
Now, this is interesting because it's raised a question. Is most people say you need to onboard the normies, right? And crypto UX is rubbish. But what we're actually saying is maybe that's not our problem. Maybe that's Coinbase's problem. And once you're in and you've kind of got a wallet, sure, we can improve everything, but maybe it works differently here. Like you might tip 20% in a US restaurant, but you tip 5% in a Spanish restaurant. The world works differently. You just have to learn the new set of rules, how society works, what you can do, what you can wear, as it's a different economy, right? When you travel to Asia, it's different than being in London, so maybe we are overthinking it. We're mid-curving it and saying, no, but by the time
the ultimate risk.
Once they're in through Coinbase, they've done the pain trade, which is I've converted money into this weird thing. I've got some stuff in my account and then can I use that stuff? Oh yeah, you just copy that number, put it into here. Maybe it's just an address. That'll get a little bit easier. And then we don't care about the rest of it. Maybe we are mid-curving it, and maybe this is not our problem. It's Coinbase's problem or Kraken's problem or whoever. I mean, are you going to get your brother-in-law's mate straight onto your platform and he's never done crypto before? No. Literally almost zero chance. His way in is going to be, I might use my PayPal account and buy some Bitcoin, and then I'll follow a couple of videos and realize I should not probably keep it there, and then you go down the rabbit hole that we've all gone down.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, because this is what you do, right? You build essentially products and experiences for retail. But the question is which retail?
Retail is a very dangerously ambiguous word, I think.
Particularly when we're in a new economy. Is it old retail, Web 2 retail, or Web 3 retail?
Yeah.
Which is why Pump.fund did so well, because they just built for native retail.
My reaction to that is it definitely does. So building for this broad term of retail is pretty dangerous, and we should actually be quite specific about that. But ultimately, our vision is to do both of what you're saying, and to do both is to me is onboard some of the centralized exchange users to on-chain, and those users they are already crypto curious in some ways. They are already crypto users. Crypto curious might be not even the right term. They are crypto users, but they just like the simplicity of a custodial experience. But all of the fun stuff is happening on-chain right now. All of the innovation, all the chatter, right? Of course, some folks are profit seeking even when they are on a custodial exchange, and all of the profit generation opportunities are on-chain. So what we want to do is expose that to them and help them bring them on-chain, and of course, strive to make them use Magic Eden. On the other side of it is, I actually do believe in pursuing a vision of bypassing the centralized exchanges as well. And I think that it's a unique opportunity that has just opened up in the history of crypto right now, which is, if we tried to say this 3 years ago, that would have been larking, right? It's like wishful thinking. But today, we have really fast chains so that the underlying technology can serve very, very crisp user experiences that doesn't feel like you're using a calculator to run a computer program. Number two, you have these very new wallet innovations, right? Like embedded wallets, you can use email login, all of that. And then thirdly, you have fiat on-ramps, which we as a dApp don't have to run, and they have really great coverage. They can onboard fiat. And then the last thing is, then you have all this on-chain crazy shit that's happening, like meme coins, AI tokens, all of this stuff. So we have almost like the interesting use case to pull people through. And I actually think, to your point, there is an opportunity for us to build the right experience where users onboard directly onto Magic Eden without going through Coinbase. Just credit card, but you hear about something really interesting. You come to Magic Eden, the experience is pretty retail friendly. It's not super complicated with all these numbers and looks really scary and with all this crypto jargon. Then you use our wallet, you use your credit card, and use onboard. And we're the first thing that you touch. And of course, I would then like to also allow those users to buy Bitcoin, buy Ethereum, some of those table stakes assets, and those things sit in our wallet and it grows with those users. But I think there is a chance to do that. Now, the last thing I would say though is it's very dangerous for us to think that we should build, let's say, Robinhood or PayPal and we can onboard those users. I don't think we can do that. But what we should do is probably build a trusted brand and a simple enough experience where crypto curious users who are interested in some of these on-chain assets, they look at us and say, yeah, this is actually something that I would use. Right. It's like Kraken Light or something like that.
Yeah. Another area that I think because we might now get a change of regulation in the US with the change of government, we saw and tested and you traded an experiment in capital formation, which was ICOs. It was instantaneous, early stage capital formation that wasn't in equity format, was liquid from start, and was accessible to anybody. So, i.e., you didn't have to be an accredited investor. You know, that is the big idea here. It feels that everything in crypto gets tested once, gets destroyed. Everybody learns from it. They know it's a good idea, but we didn't get it right, and we rebuild it. We'll see this with NFTs. We'll see this. We've seen this with everything, right? We saw it with DeFi. We saw it with a lot. I have a feeling right now the people who are doing the early stage are the VCs, and it's leaving a bitter taste in the mouth for many because the VCs obviously get entry to the equity and the token allocation much earlier than others because they're risking capital earlier. Fine, right? That's how capital markets work. But ICOs allow us to all risk capital together at the same time or something closer to it. And I feels that that's another marketplace for something like Magic Eden should regulation change, where it's like a VC platform and it's thought of like a VC platform. You go there to look for early stage opportunities, and there's a pitch deck, and there's the thing, and here you allocate the token. There's something big in that idea that I think is going to come back, and it's going to be massive.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I like it. Imagine Eden.io where we restrict, it's basically like an offshore platform, right? Like we restrict US users and stuff, and that actually allows us to also innovate and experiment with some of these kind of products, without tripping up any wires. So I think that is actually really interesting. I would definitely say that something that you mentioned about the ethos of ICOs, despite them not fully working and there was a lot of vaporware going on, is it did capture this essence of fairness that really tugged at why it was really interesting to a lot of people in the community at that time. And I think that essence of fairness, that ethos, is actually at the heart of like why people got really into crypto in the first place. It's a grassroots.
We front run the institutions. It was for us. For once, it was for us and not for them. And then what's happened is the VCs have come in and turned that back to the old model. Everyone's like, no, we don't want this.
That's right. Yes, it's like crypto. It's amazing that crypto is what it is today. It's evolved to be as big as what it is today, but it's really driven by the energy of grassroots. It's really driven by the energy for us, like the small person, the every man and the every woman on the street, right? So I think there is definitely something there. And I agree with you that the trend of the industry is not towards that, unfortunately. The trend of the market structure in the industry is towards actually more gatekeepers. There are some insiders, and then it's not really fair. It's not open. And I would actually say that is probably why there is this rise of, meme coins, which is somewhat controversial. It seems like an empty use case, but it always goes to this heart of like, it's a fair launch. It's fair for everyone to get it at the same price with the same information. And I also think that that's also partly why there is so much somewhat consternation, right, within the crypto industry about centralized exchanges being gatekeepers and so on and so forth. So I think I definitely agree with the spirit, right, of that observation for sure.
And somebody put a point on Twitter today on this as well that got me to think. They're like, well, if we are going to go back to ICOs, are we going to walk away from this model, and probably rightly so, where the founders have to retain very few tokens. In fact, it's deemed good that the founders hold little tokens, which is bizarre because it means that all of the liquidity capital is up front, and at the back end doesn't really make any difference whether the token goes up. It's a misalignment of interest, when really what you'd want is the founders to hold a lot of tokens.
Be very long-term aligned.
Much like Elon Musk owns a lot of Twitter. If he didn't, I'd be pretty keen to get out. But we've got this weird inverted world at the moment because we need to prove decentralization to the regulators. So we've created perverse incentives.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you.
Yeah, that stopped me in my tracks when he wrote that and thought, that's right. Well, why are we doing this? Now, there's decentralization on a DeFi protocol that doesn't require human intervention. I get it. But on most projects where there's a team building it and it has to be a successful business, you can't forward sell all the economic value.
Yeah.
I wonder why those people don't hang around to try and make the ecosystem grow if it doesn't work in the first year or two.
Yeah. No, I fully agree, man. Yeah, I'm actually really like inspired. I'm really, really inspired. I'm like, I'm not laughing in saying kindred spirits. I feel like I'm on like a broken record saying that all the time. But I really, really believe that. So a few things. One, I think that's why, like, we talked about like NFTs are dead. Like, are NFTs dead, and what's our views for NFTs? What's my view for NFTs? And I said this thing of like, there is a speculative aspect of NFTs, of PFPs. It's like flat right now, but it's still pretty profitable. But long term, we're really bullish because this tech fundamentally needs to exist. And I believe in the trend towards utility, which is like, there was vaporware ICOs, but then the best coins with proper teams, people building behind them, teams that's long-term aligned, they rose to the top. And I believe in that spirit, right? Where you do need good teams, you do need people who are building behind these things, and you need them to be long-term aligned.
Most of the people who built their firms for equity and not for token have done better over time. So Brian Armstrong, great example. Or Jesse from Kraken, right? Because they had equity and they couldn't get out of it. So they had to keep building. And it took a while, right? And then, so that's an interesting thing. The other thing about memes is interesting because this is exactly the same as the NFT craze last time. And what this is at scale testing of a technology, which is, as you said, tokenized attention and culture, which will turn into something else, which is this social tokens idea. This is these micro community ideas or sports community. All of this is coming and it's being battle tested now, and it will 99% will all go to zero, but we'll have learned how to scale, how to do this, and some of the things we can do with it. The other ones I think come back, because you mentioned it twice now, is PFPs. So the idea of people have forgotten again, right? PFPs, yeah, I use my ape. I use my punk, but I got an ape and all of that stuff. Great. People forget that the reason we're all so bullish on this stuff is because in a digital world, we need a digital ID. And your PFP is your digital ID. And it's your digital status. That is not going away. In fact, that will hyperscale over time, but just in different forms.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That was just the first form of the luxury good or the social identifier, or what. And what will rise from that is punks will be worth fortunes in years to come, but the technology will get adopted for other things.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. I see PFPs as it's like the first proof point of what this technology could be. This technology of using it for identity, using for a single concept proof. It's the early innings. And then what we really need is then refine the technology, get creators to adopt it, and then then all of the things that we can imagine, I think, is going to happen. It's like what they say about tech, right? Like, we underestimate what could happen in a few years, but we overestimate what things could be in 2 years, but underestimate what things could be in 10 years. I think it's the same. Like, in 10 years, this stuff will be like way crazier, way huger than we could have ever imagined. And of course, right now, it's not a straight line path to what we can imagine the future could be. Yeah.
So talking of that as a kind of something to think about as we go is I've been using for quite a long time, I built that model of the internet adoption versus crypto adoption using wallets versus IP addresses. So they're similar because we have many IP addresses, we have many wallets, right? Started them at 5 million each to say, okay, that's what it really started to scale. Crypto has been growing at twice the speed of the internet at the same stage. So it's been growing at 147% a year, which oddly enough is roughly the same growth as Bitcoin in terms of price appreciation, because it's network effects here. The internet was slower because why? It didn't have the token economics that makes the number go up. You couldn't make money out of that. You had to make money from the applications layer, but not the actual infrastructure layer, which is what tokens are. Then it kind of, the internet slowed down growth from like 87% to 43% as maturity comes. So even if we slow down growth to the same as the internet, which would be a 75% reduction in growth of crypto, which is not going to happen by 2025, we'd have 1 billion wallets by the end of 2025. We'll actually probably like to have 2 billion. But if I take the trend out to only 2032, or 2030, we're at 4 billion. 4 billion wallets is a mature, saturated market. And that's a huge, staggering amount of growth. If you think of what activity happens when you hyperscale an infrastructure layer that we can all build on, be economically incentivized to do, the things that sound crazy today, and we overestimate in 2 years, like we did with PFPs and we did with the metaverse and we will do with memes, and we do that, we did with DeFi. In 10 years, or by, let's say 2030, we'll look back and go, oh my God, 4 billion people or 4 billion wallets, and then the AI will start using wallets. So I just get very excited about the broader space. People are very narrow in their focus about my ecosystem, my token, my thing. And I think what's really interesting about what you're doing is it's like, it's our thing. Let's build stuff that is useful for you guys in this explosion, in this journey from 500 million wallets to 4 billion wallets. What are you guys going to be doing with all these wallets? And what you're basically saying is, well, we don't know, but we're going to help build this for you. So you've got a home, a place to come, right?
We think about, our positioning as we want to be an index of Web3, right? And we also foresee the same kind of growth that you're foreseeing. And what we want then is to be like this home or this hub where people will say, hey, you know what? All chains, all assets, if I want it, it's on Magic Eden. I can come here and search for it and transact in it. So then effectively for us is, well, the only bet you have to make is as long as Web3 grows, then Magic Eden is going to grow.
Jack, super interesting. It was a good exchange of ideas because we were just riffing off stuff that we were just thinking of as we go. And that's what I like. That's the whole point of doing these conversations. It's just we're all figuring this out as we go. It's an exciting world. Nobody has all the answers. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to hopefully have some victories too. But it's just fascinating to figure out how you're thinking about this and where this road is leading. So thanks a lot for joining us, and we'll keep following the path.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you for the opportunity. Exponential age, let's go.
So hopefully you've got some takeaways out of that. It's a really interesting space. I think the whole NFT world will change over time. How we think about the integration of NFTs within all the other assets as well, I think is important because, crypto is a big group of stuff and we don't want to live in siloed worlds. And I'm a fan of what Magic Eden are trying to do in making it all unsiloed and something much bigger. Anyway, make sure you go down the rabbit hole of NFTs. I think you'll find there's a lot of interesting stuff there. Become a collector of art. Enjoy it. Art over time, if you get the right art, will appreciate in value. And because it's usually priced in the underlying currency, let's say Ethereum or Solana, particularly ETH NFTs, as ETH goes up, Even if the NFT price, let's say you paid 10 ETH for something, stays the same, and ETH goes to 10,000, for example, the value of your art has gone up a lot. Often, if you get the right art, it outperforms the underlying asset too. So let's say the thing you paid 10 for goes up to 20 and ETH goes to 10,000, you've made a lot of money. Anyway, just realize NFTs are much bigger. And if anybody tells you that the NFT craze is done, you realize they're mid-curving it. It's much bigger than all of that. Anyway, see you next time.
Meet Magic Eden, the home of Web3. They are getting into the token trading space in addition to NFTs to become a super dApp where you can do everything cross-chain all in one place. They're solving UX issues by building products across every chain ecosystem, swaps, borrowing and lending, NFT, perps, and more, all seamlessly cross-chain. Instead of hopping between countless sites and handling multiple wallets, just use Magic Eden. Plus, the ME token is coming out this quarter from the ME Foundation. If you've used any of their protocols, you can claim some. So check out Magic Eden today and watch them become a super dApp in the home of Web3 in real time. Go to realvision.com/magic for more information.
Hey, thanks for sticking around to the end. Look, if you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button and check out the video here on the right-hand side. I'm sure you'll enjoy that one as well. And if you're ready for more, go to realvision.com/join. I'll see you there.